quickly. And it's going through. Jake Stringer. Walsh, here he is. Straightens up and has delivered. Is there nothing this young man can't do? Hands on it, couldn't complete it. Happily from the pocket. How's the wow factor of that?
Hello, I'm Damian Barrett. Welcome to Access All Areas, brought to you by Sportsbet. More COVID drama descended on the competition in round 18, and there's plenty more to come as 45 matches remain in the home and away season, 9 finals to follow. Matthew Lloyd, as always, is with me. And Lloydie, these COVID walls are now closing in.
They are, Damo. To see Toby Green, Callum Mills and so many others removed from the game in the warm-up. 3 Sydney Swans players who'd played a game in the seconds the day before had to then back up and play another game yesterday. And just wonder with the fixturing and the teams that you're meant to play next round, all those sorts of things, whether we'll be able to play them in the way we've known in the past. It
was made clear to the clubs through regular conversations late last week and over the course of the weekend that the ideology will be to play the games, to not have a reset, to rethink and to deal with the border restrictions and the other issues that are now at play. So that's in play. There'll be swapping of matches from rounds 19 to 20. Keep looking at afl.com.au to see the official nature of that. Even Friday night's game, Port Adelaide, Collingwood. Special provisions are required for Collingwood to fly in and fly out for that night game. It's every possibility now that the Western Bulldogs and Melbourne could play in that particular Friday night slot, this one coming up. So there's going to be that type of change, Lordo. But with 45 matches to play, the one lock-in will be that the match-ups of each club as they stand will stay, but not necessarily in the order in which they were initially intended.
We're probably fortunate we have a bye round, so we can have that week buffer if we need it to have some teams not potentially play for a round.
And that's a buffer zone. And the exposure, obviously, of players to which you mentioned from the Swans who attended a rugby union match in Melbourne before Melbourne was locked down, and the elevation of that exposure site to a Tier 2 level. There's complexity around that. Had they stayed in Melbourne, they probably would have been able to get a negative test and continue to play and function, whereas the provisions required for them to go into Queensland has a different set of criteria upon their return to their club. So as we speak, there is an unknown as to when Toby Green and Callum Mills and others will return to play.
Yeah, and in particular, those two are critical to Green helping them play finals and Mills helping the Swans win a premiership. And if they're locked in a room for the next 14 days, not being able to train and do anything, you just wonder, whether the Swans and Giants would push for their games to be pushed back, but I don't think the AFL will stand for that.
No, they didn't. And while the retrofitting of our opinions on why would they attend a game en masse is of a nature that it did raise question marks. It certainly did raise question marks with the AFL, that so many players and officials from the same clubs would make the decision to go, because the whole ideology has been to remove the risk, take the risk out of it. So anyway, that's the latest. There'll be more to come, obviously, and just keep checking back in with the AFL Live app to get the absolute latest. The game itself, there was no disruptions from a GWS perspective, Auto. They went to 7-1 lead, then they fell away. So they couldn't use the confusion before the game as an excuse for the loss, I wouldn't have thought.
No, they're such a dynamic side. They were brilliant, the Giants, nice and early. It got out. Look at the scoreboard, 34 points, 8 goals to 2 at this stage when the Swans start to get going. And they just kicked some important goals on half-time to get themselves back in the game. But this ball movement, I heard Luke Beveridge 2 weeks ago when the Swans beat the Bulldogs say they're playing a lot like us, but they just played better than us at Marvel Stadium. And I see a lot of the Western Bulldogs in the way the Swans are playing. I know a lot's made of what Don Pike has brought to the team with their ball movement, but they are tough. They've got great one-on-one defenders led by McCartan and also Rampy, and then just how dynamic a guy like Blakey's become off half-back.
A big game, Blakey.
They are probably the real smokey, I think.
And great to see that man kick another 4 goals as he nears the 1,000-goal barrier, and a slowish start for him, but he came good again. Hickey was outstanding again, I thought, in the ruck as a recruit.
And I look forward to hearing from Nath Brown soon where they sit in the Premiership mark, because as I said, outside the ones we've spoken about a lot, they are the team coming with a rush.
Jimmy Bartel, a board member of the Giants, has said regularly now, Lordo, maybe for 3 or 4 years, that the Giants are consistently inconsistent, and you just don't know what you get. They've now got another injury issue to deal with. Josh Kelly, who was having his best season since his breakout one of 2017, has again rolled an ankle here. He was taken out of the game, and as we speak, we don't know what his next moves are, but it's something they could certainly do without.
Yeah, well, Toby Green's got his troubles with what he got caught up in. Steve Caniglio's just been in and out, obviously came back yesterday. So, yeah, I just think they have too many players that are inconsistent. The team's inconsistent. To be up by 6 goals, the turnaround in that game just shouldn't happen. It doesn't happen to good sides.
Yeah. Another team that had to come from behind, from 4 goals in Carlton's case against Collingwood, but they did it, Lordo. They stayed true to their game plan. They got to three-quarter time, 8 points in arrears, but they just wore away at Collingwood throughout the course of the game.
Good to see. So we've seen them win games through blistering ball movement, but exposed in the back end. Whereas what I loved about this, they've won a different way. And I reckon David Teague has adjusted things the last 4 or 5 weeks.
In what way, Lordo?
In the way they're defending the ground and also forward front half pressure. So this is front half territory. So as you said, they scored 41 points from it. And they kicked 6 goals, 4-3 behinds in the last quarter. We haven't seen Carlton do that all season, where they just overwhelm a team with frontal pressure like that.
There was an old school element to it too, wasn't there? They get to three-quarter time, that they got that deficit back to 8 points, and then you put the pressure on your best players. And Sam Walsh had already put together a good game to that point, dominated the last quarter. Harry McKay, who had not been able to kick a goal to that point of the match, ended with 4 to continue his lead in the Coleman medal. And it's great that these two players, Lordo, are young players getting the job done.
Remember Mickey Turner from the Geelong Falcons say this bloke's as good or better than Luke Hodge. Everyone makes big statements at draft time. But
did he say that at the draft time?
At the draft time, and you can see what he means, because this kid is a captain. He's got captaincy written all over him. It's just about when they give it to him, the captaincy. And it's good luck trying to tag him. Good luck trying to stop him. I know he's been beaten once by De Boer.
And good luck stopping McKay in that situation too.
And McKay kicked his 50th goal yesterday. He's the first player to do it since Andrew Walker. But 5 or 6 years ago, even longer. So he's both had outstanding seasons along with Wiedering.
So with Walsh and McKay, and you throw Wiedering in, are they all 3 top 20 players in the comp right now?
They are, and that's why you should still be excited to be a Carlton fan. And David Teague, if he's the man, great. A lot to work with. Or if you're the new coach who potentially could coach them, it's a great job to get.
Yep.
I hope Teague keeps it, mind you. Yep. But, they're on the upward curve, I think, if they can get the game side of it right.
And I've been as critical as anyone of David Teague, but clearly, Lordo, that you couldn't level the accusation that the players aren't playing for him right now since the review was called. Jordan De Goey, Lordo, he's had a good 4-week patch of himself. Now, we see rounds 13 to 18 here. Now, there's a bye within that patch, and he missed one of those games through a suspension. But Robert Harvey took over in round 14, or after round 13, and you can see what has happened there just through the numbers.
Well, we see Sam Walsh, and Walsh doesn't have lapses in form because of his work rate and his professionalism. And I talk of professionalism with Jordan De Goey, because if he ever... he seems to get better as seasons unfold, and I don't think he starts seasons that well, because I think he's behind the 8 ball too many times in a pre-season.
Yep.
So he could be the best player in the game.
Enjoys the time away from the game.
Yeah, I think so. But he could be the best, and I think he's underachieved in his career so far. And he may say it's due to injuries, but I'd say it's due to a lot of professionalism. He's not as professional as Bontempelli and Walsh and Petrarca and these types. So I hope he gets there in the back half of his career.
Yep. Extraordinarily, and I say that because of what they've been through this year and in recent years, Essendon is in the 8 after round 18. They got there after a win against North Melbourne. They've gone back-to-back wins now, Lordo. They had to, again, maybe similar to Carlton, weather their own indifferent form in the first half, in the first stages of this game, and even a late charge by North Melbourne to get the job done. But wins are wins, and to think that they are now in finals contention and officially in the 8 after round 18, it's full credit to that club.
Yeah, but they were off, though. We just wanted to show this clip to say they were off in the first half. It was really, really poor, and then they finally woke up and said, OK, let's not give North the uncontested ball, the uncontested marks, apply pressure to the bottom-ranked side, and the game flipped on its head. Stringer got going, Merritt got going, Parrish, all their guns. But if they want to play that way against the Giants and the Swans in the next 2 weeks, I think they lose.
Right.
So they got away with it against the bottom-ranked side, but they've got to be better. It's fantastic they're in the 8, but there was a real lull, and that's what he's looking for, consistency, Ben Rutten. But they've been one of the stories of the year. They're a pleasure to watch. This was symbolic of their second half, Tip and Woody, which created this Stringer goal.
And Stringer gets on the end of it at the end and kicked one of his 4 goals for the game. And he's putting together his best year, Lordo, since his 2015 All-Australian as a Bulldog. Eagles and Crows game, it was a tough one to watch, particularly that first quarter. Eagles, a bit similar to the Bombers, got the job done against the team they were meant to beat.
All they had to do was get the 4 points for their own confidence, their own belief after some really, really poor form. over the last few weeks, losing to North, getting smashed by Sydney at GMHBA Stadium. And 5 goals from Cripps, a career best. He's a real barometer for them. 3 goals to Liam Ryan, a couple to Petruccelli. So this is maybe a thing with no Josh Kennedy. Can they mix it up a little bit in their front half, maybe become a little bit more dynamic, Damo, which they probably haven't been with. They've always had Allen, Darling and Kennedy. Can we see something different? I think he's been questioned over there in Perth for his game style. Too slow with their ball movement. Maybe get it in a bit quicker. And go to a small forward line.
OK, so they're finished round 18 in 7th spot and Essendon in 8th. There's a breakaway 6 teams. And Nathan Brown of Sportsbet, as always, we'll check in with you to see how that market looks. The top 6 do seem to have broken away very significantly.
Yeah, they have, and it's a logjam at the bottom half. Let's have a look at the Premiership market, and there's been a lot of money for the Cats. They're now officially the favourite for the first time in a long time. Still the Bulldogs. The Demons have dropped off a bit, as have the Brisbane Lions. But the 2 clubs who've had money for have been Geelong and also the Sydney Swans. You could have got about $18 for the Sydney Swans about a month ago, so they've definitely firmed in the market. But the one big firmer has been Geelong, and seeing a lot of money for the Cats. So the other interesting part is the logjam at the bottom half of the ladder. So 7th, 8th, all the way down to, you could probably even include Carlton now, but the Giants, have a look at the Giants. They were 6 goals up yesterday. They're now $12. With the players they've got out, that is a massive price for the Giants to finish top 8, considering they're not far out at the moment. The West Coast Eagles, probably the shakiest there at $1.45. I don't think I could take that price for them, but the Tigers and the Bombers. And then you've got the Saints at a big price as well. So here's the run home. This is what I want to talk about. And I've only done the first 2 rounds because you don't know where these last 3 rounds are going to be played. So I think Sydney win both their games. I think West Coast win both their games. Essendon, I think, beat the Giants and then lose to Sydney. I don't think the Tigers can get the job done against Geelong, but I think they should be able to good enough with players coming back to beat Fremantle. Fremantle lose twice and Kilda 1-1. So big prices. GWS are probably a big price for a reason. I don't think they can make it. But the way it looks, it is Richmond or Essendon in that 8th spot at the moment. And that's where the money's coming, both Richmond and Essendon. But Essendon got a massive fortnight coming up.
Yeah, very thorough analysis there, Brownie.
And also research, Damo.
It is. And the rounds 21 through to 23, no one knows what they're going to look
Hard to know. So hard as a punter to put any money on that at the moment. You just do not know. So hold fire.
Brownie, thank you as always, and to Sportsbet as well. Lotto, we saw the Demons on Brownie's charts lose Premiership favouritism simply because of a draw that they managed only against the Hawks.
Well, the issue for them is, look at this, they're 6-0 against other top 8 sides, but then they've lost to the Giants in 12th, Magpies 15th, Crows in 16th, and a draw again in 17th.
So what does that say to you about them? The fact they can beat every other club, except for West Coast, who they haven't yet played, in the top 11?
You can look at it as a positive or a negative. And maybe they don't get up for the sides and think it's just going to happen. But I think there's a mental aspect, which I'm still not totally sold on with the Demons. And that's harsh because they've been on top for so long. But I don't know if I'm as confident in Melbourne as I am, say, a Geelong. Or a Western Bulldogs at this point in time. But they're going to be right up there. I think at a minimum they play in a prelim with how good their form has been. But I don't think their pressure is as manic as it was in the first part of the year. So that's also an area they could ramp up. The Spargo and Pickett and these types, I'm not sure they're as manic as they were earlier in the year.
Clubs are also, too, are really conscious of not bombing the ball into Lever and May, who have had put together really, really good seasons. The Hawks, when they finally got their act together, Lordo, I want to say finally, when they did get their act together, they brought it inside 50 in a way that didn't suit Lever and May.
Yeah, and they've got the Suns this week, so we'll see again. It's another lesser side what they can do. But then it's the Western Bulldogs who they've got, who I think it was one of the wins of the season when Melbourne beat the Dogs earlier in the year. But yeah, I think a few teams have gone to school on this. The lower sides, they've all lowered their eyes, brought in what's called dirty balls, so not long high balls, ground balls, and that has really tested out Melbourne over the last 5 or 6 weeks. And they're continually being picked apart, Melbourne, and their test will come.
Thought Port Adelaide had one of its really courageous wins under Ken Hinkley, Lordo. It's probably not going to get the kudos that it may deserve because of the injuries they had, but they had to grind it out against the Saints. It was season shaping. It's kept them in the doubles chance, and it came without the 3 young kids who we talk about regularly not being available, Gray also being out, Fantasia and Motlop as well, and they did it well, and that guy there was very good. Trent
McKenzie, I thought their back line was outstanding. St Kilda had 10 more inside 50s, and they just won the one-on-ones that were there to be won. So King, will have to do some work this week on pushing back harder on his opponent. Tim Membry had a poor game. He didn't score. King only kicked the 1 goal. And I reckon Ken Hinkley had a really good game plan where he took the speed off the game. He saw he hasn't got all Rosie, Butters, Gray, Dursma, he didn't have any of them. So he thought, we can't go as fast. St Kilda love a fast-paced game. He took the speed off the game. Georgiades dominated with 4 goals.
Yeah, it's good. Good season.
It was a really good win by the club away from home.
Yep. Another good win came from Richmond. It was way back on Friday night. They beat Brisbane Lions, who has got their own problems to deal with. But the story out of the game, and one of the storylines now of the year, is the unavailability for the remainder of 2021 of Dusty Martin after that clash with Mitch Robinson. It was as hard a hit as you're going to see from 2 players, Lordo, who both left themselves exposed for the serious contact. The bruised kidney that Dusty suffered means that he's still, as we speak, in a Gold Coast hospital.
Yeah, it's they just can't take a trick this year, Richmond. They just they're fighting and scrapping. That was a ripper win up there. You saw the passion there after the game when the siren went. Even Dusty, he wouldn't have thought he was going to miss the season at that point in time. But it's sad to see, because I think he played 260 of 269 games.
Yes.
So durable, but unfortunately that's footy.
They might have to win 4 of their remaining 5 to make the 8. I'm going to back them in to do that, even without Dusty. What happens beyond that, I don't know. But provided Toby Nankervis, who returned after a long layoff with injury, Lordo, stays up on 2 feet and plays like he did against the Lions, they're every chance at least to get back in there.
Yeah, some players you run down the race with and you feel better for them being there. I know James Serge was one for me that you just loved the confidence he gave you when he was playing. But Nankervis, I know he hasn't got the talent or brilliance of James Serge. He's got the physicality of what Mumford does for the Giants.
He's got the presence.
He's got the presence. Not many players play with presence. And that's an issue for Brisbane in my eyes. I don't think McInerney in a big final series can handle these ruckmen like Toby Nankervis. He's been one of the great recruits of the last decade, Toby.
Just 2 quick answers before we move on to the next topic involving Richmond. Do you rule them out of the flag now with Dusty gone?
Yes.
And do you rule Lions also out too?
Oh, yeah, I think their last couple of weeks has been really damning. Losses to St Kilda and I think Hipwood going out, Marcus Adams going out, they can't afford to lose players and can't get away with it like other teams can.
Sure. Daniel Rioli has spent considerable time, contextually anyway, in the VFL this year, Lordo, playing a different role. And we saw on display that different role in this particular game where he was down back.
I like it. You know, he's a 3-time Premiership player as a forward, but he's lost his spot in the team. So instead of just trying to get past Arts and Castagna and these types, Damien Hardwick said, he's got too much talent to be in the 2s, but I need to find you another role. And let's see if he can play 150 games for Richmond off a half. He uses it well.
Is that the key to this role for him? He's kicking?
Yeah, I think that's where the game's got to, having dynamic players like him off half-back. We've seen it with Caleb Daniel and all these guys for years and years. And
he's an elite reader of the play.
He is. And what's going to be great for him, he steps up in class, I think, against Geelong at the MCG this weekend to see how he handles the likes of Close and Dalhouse with extreme pressure. Good to see how he goes.
I know you like the Bulldogs. You've had a query and a question mark all year about their back line. Alex Keith, again, on the weekend, got the job done. It was against the Gold Coast. They just had to get the win, as West Coast did against Adelaide. They did.
Oh, he's been so dependable for them. A wonderful recruit has Alex Keith been. And I was worried about the tall forwards getting hold of them, but it's actually the small to mediums that the Western Bulldogs are getting exposed with. Ainsworth got a hold of them. But
Holman did as well.
Yeah, Holman did as well. Early on.
Yeah.
So, Keith's been outstanding for the Western Bulldogs and, held King really well.
So it's still a chink, though, for them, their back line, collectively?
Well, I think they're so aggressive that they give up goals, but they create so much. So you'd enjoy playing on Bailey Dale and these guys because they take the game. They hurt you, but at the same time they give you a chance. So that's the way Beveridge plays and coaches.
Geelong looked as though it played against a waffle team on the weekend, or early in round 18, Thursday night against Fremantle. Lordo, they managed only 3 goals for the game, and one of those was a free kick for deliberate out of bounds, and one was a complete mess up of a play by the Cats. It was a demoralising performance from a doctor's perspective, but one that just allowed you to think that the Cats, provided they get those 3 players back in Duncan, Rowan and Cameron, to me anyway, are the clear Premiership favourites.
I love Chris Scott because the amount of games he gets on his terms for his club is probably more so than other coaches. And it was a dismantling of Fremantle. 28-2 marks inside 50. I've never seen a disparity like it.
Michael Walters is, I reckon, one time my favourite player in the comp, Lord. He's going through a tough patch at the moment. He kicked one of their 3 goals, but this is the sort of player that he's going to bemoan having to watch back.
Well, I was once told when I was falling over as much as I was late in my career that your career's nearly coming to an end if you're falling over like that. So from a confidence perspective, he's just got to fight and scrap, and whatever you do, don't fall over. Stay in the fight for as long as you can. He's too good to go out like this.
Yep.
But I think he's just that low on confidence. Moments like that are happening. So
Yep.
I'm not sure if he can be thrown in the midfield, which I know he wants to. It's just how much does Longmuir want him as part of the future to try and pick him back up again?
A few question marks
yeah,
there.
That's a question mark there.
Lordo, a lot of emotion at the MCG, a crowdless MCG for COVID reasons. Jack Silvagni's grandfather, the great Serge Silvagni, passed away on Thursday, and obviously the lineage of that name has been incredible at that footy club. That goal he kicked, acknowledged up in the skies the great Serge and very close family, and then he did as his dad did, Steve, in taking a great mark against Collingwood at the MCG.
He did so well. What a tough week it was, and you see the emotion come pouring out of him at the end of the game. What a draining week it would have been. So congratulations to Jack for performing the way he did under such tough circumstances.
Yeah, it's good to put the game together on the back of the emotional week. Lordo, thank you as always for your time on Access All Areas, and we'll be back with another edition of Access All Areas next Monday.